Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Prepurchase Inspections, written by Majestic Teach 6677. I keyed in the final approach of the coordinates provided by my client. I got an eyeful of the billboards outside, happy sound like used starship sails in flashing lights. I let out a slow whistle as I realized the billboards was probably bigger than my starship, which didn't give me much confidence. I had had a bad feeling, as more lights and bigger billboards all too often translated into bigger problems and more arguing with craptacular teeters who won't accept they are setting something about to fall apart. I lowered the landing struts and lined up with the docking pad my client had indicated in their message. As I pulled up and landed at pad 2, I took a glance out of the cockpit window as I spun down the drives. There was a Vorgan and a relic standing at the edge of the pad looking at my shuttle. The Vorgan very much resembled the daddy longlegs and even had 8 spindly appendages. The major difference is that Vorgans are 4 to the floor and 4 to the roof, quite literally, as the resting pose of their arms has their arms sticking out and then suddenly bending to point straight at the sky. The central body sits about 4 feet off the ground and is about the size of a basketball. Unlike your friendly daddy longlegs on Earth, which were helpful with insect control and not harmful to sapiens, Vorgan ancestors got to the top of the heap on their world by being the most evolved and fastest reproducing pests. Their population in the galaxy is held in check by only 2 things. First, having sapiens allows them to have an understanding of the idea that overpopulation is bad. Second, they hate spending money on anyone but themselves. This explains why their near-constant complaints about the cost of having children keeps their numbers in check. Essentially, sapient space cockroaches with bad attitudes to match. It made sense that they were a proprietor of a backwater used starship sales lot. The relic would be described as a 5-foot-tall slug with large pitch-black oval eyes. They can manipulate their bodies to project up to 8 short stubs to use as legs and up to 6 tentacle arms ending in 2 fingers each. The first time you see one, it's a little unnerving to see them suddenly sprout an elastic arm with 2 fingers, manipulate something, and then suck it back into their body like it never existed. They can easily control their body to fit in chairs of any size or description and be comfortable despite their large bulk. Personality-wise, relics are focused and driven, but only on a single task at a time. Do not ask them to talk and chew bubblegum at the same time. But only chew gum or just talk and do nothing else for 12 hours straight, they've got you covered. The Vorgan had covered its legs in a navy blue paint and their arms in a maroon color, both obnoxiously glittery. My client, on the other hand, wore nothing at all over their pale blue skin beyond the oversized black backpack. Expressions, the dealer was swaying slightly side to side with smugness. My client seemed to deflate slightly as my old ship landed. I can understand why, as my old Sabarak 8700 isn't the prettiest, and mine had over 175 years of scars from regular spaceflight. They haven't been produced in over 150 years, and most owners hated them as maintenance hogs. Granted, the sublight engines are temperamental at best, but only if you skip the required maintenance intervals. Yes, it's a pain to clean and adjust the fuel intakes every 200 flight hours, and you have to replace the fuel filters each time at a cost of 100 credits. What they don't tell you on the Galnet forums is the fuel filters increase engine efficiency by 13% when replaced on schedule, and the fuel savings more than covers the cost of the filter and the drive technician. On top of that, the procedure is so simple that even a marginally adept owner can complete the process in under 2 hours. It's the 1,000 flight-hour tuning that gets irritating, as it requires a master technician and a unique tool made only for Sabarak drives. But even then, it isn't far off the typical 1,500 flight-hour checks most engine systems require. Here's the truth about these hulks. When operated by a competent owner who follows the maintenance schedule, they are the most reliable vessels in the galaxy. It's only when you skip something that things go wrong and get expensive. More importantly, they have a soul. You get used to the various clicks, hums, and whirs the longer you own one, and a good owner can tell a master technician what's out of alignment before they even pull out a scanner. And if you listen to and care for your metal beast, it will outlast most governments. I've personally worked on a Sabarak 8700 that was over 350 years old, and I know of at least 2 others over 400 years old, all with original drives. I patted the primary control panel and said with a sad smile, "They just don't understand, Keithra." I then looked up at the fuzzy dice tied to the central board above my head and gave them a gentle bop before getting up to grab my tools and exit the craft. I wore my stained grey coveralls, which had the normal stains from working on Starship drives. I looked like every other greaser in the galaxy as I strode confidently towards my client. "How much did you pay for this hack?" the Vorgon asked with smugness nearly as obnoxious as the billboard. "1,000 credits," my client responded quietly. "By the stars!" the Vorgon let out a clattering of mandibles, their equivalent of a guffaw. "I could have recommended a local tech that wouldn't even charge you 500 credits for a pre-purchase inspection, and they'd show up in something less than 2 decades old instead of a clunker of 2 centuries old. I can't even sell those old Semrex for scrap. I bet half the fee is just to pay for the work to keep that old beast state-worthy." "The Sapient came highly recommended on Galnet," my Brelic client answered defensively, but with 2 outstretched and slightly waving tentacles. I knew that, to me, they felt unsure about the situation. I gave the Vorgon a flat stare and my client a polite nod before I simply walked over to the required check-in terminal. To prevent unauthorized access to starships, all dealerships are required to keep their facilities secure, and you need to log your entry on a Galnet terminal. I swiped my card, and the speaker announced my presence. I usually found the required announcement a little pretentious, but in this case, I was looking forward to the reaction. "Terran certified master technician Clara Sandish recognized and logged for entry." In my Galnet listing, I didn't list that I was a CMT. Standard certificate techs have 4 years of training plus 1 year of hands-on experience, plus 3 years of work in the shipyards working on vessels from the Terran military down to the custom one-off designs produced by shipwrights you've never heard of. I'm trained to not only fix things, but fab custom parts of my own design. I didn't want to be flooded with calls from idiots wasting my time. I preferred to build my client list slowly and use word of mouth, being very clear with my clients that they should never mention my status as a master technician. Plus, I like the variety of clients you find advertising as a standard tech instead of just a stuck-up wealthy and military types who demand CMTs. It was my turn to wear a smug smile as I turned around. My client had perked up quite a bit and was staring at me with intense interest. The Vorgon? "They'll take 20% of the listed price if you sign the paperwork now," the space cockroach blurted out. "I think I'll wait for the inspection," my client responded confidently. 40% off listed, and I'll throw in a 3D nanite wax for the whole vessel, along with the security etchings on all major parts to deter theft," the Vorgon asked with a pleading whine, "but only if you sign immediately." My client didn't look troubled. After all, they'd paid my fee up front. It wasn't refundable, and after those outbursts, it didn't take much effort to recognize the stealer as a scam artist. I gave them a much-needed out. "Your original message mentioned a possible second ship for 100 credit travel charge. I can take you over to that dealer, and you can use the inspection fee on that vessel today," I offered with a professional smile. "Accepted. Let's depart immediately," the Bredick said, as they quickly turned around and moved towards my ship. Neither one of us bothered to look back at the Vorgon. There wasn't much conversation on the way to the other dealer beyond me ushering my client to the co-pilot seat. Their brain was obviously locked on. "We are going to the other dealer called this little Starship lot. Cute name. The Galna results only said the place had been open for a few months, so who knew what we might find." As I pulled into the docking pad at the dealer indicated by my client, I saw something waiting. It was pink, furry, and excited to see us arrive. I stared outside as we came in for a landing, and I finally got a closer look. Not a child in a fursuit or a large dog dyed pink. Definitely a pie-wrapped fluffy, pink, and depending on the angle and the way your brain processes things, either a space dinosaur or a space-crested gecko dinosaur. I kept staring as my ship pulled forward, and kept pulling forward until my Bredick client made a noise like a ball of angry jello shaken, and my eyes snapped back forward. With a quick grab, I killed the throttle and dropped us onto the landing pad. "Always make a dramatic entrance," I joked to my client as internally I cringed how far forward I had landed on the pad. The security fence was literally no more than 2 feet away from the nose of my ship. Pirates are definitely distracting. We were promptly greeted at the bottom of the ramp once we exited. "Hi," the furry space dinosaur said with a wave. "I'm Alice Shriek, owner of this little starship lot. I understand that you've come to look at a Fosket 43. Please call me Ali." He then raised both hands palm up, and a hollow appeared above each hand. The one on the left had a human smiley face, while the one on the right had an emoticon of a predic doing a formal bow. This guy definitely wasn't pulling any punches on tossing out the cute and furry cards. It didn't help that the pie-wrapped wasn't wearing any clothes, so my brain kept going to bouncy furry thing one play. I even opened up my tool case for a moment, looking for a ball before my mind snapped back to reality. Cosmetics are fair, but I can guarantee your mechanic will be satisfied with the condition, Annie said with gusto. Please come this way and sign at the Gullnet terminal. My brain was still having a little trouble comprehending the reality of a ball of fluff in front of me, so I simply stepped mechanically over to the terminal and swiped my ID card. I rolled my eyes as the terminal called out my name and official certification. Terran Certified Master Technician Clara Sandish, recognized and logged for entry. Instantly, 2 hands were pulled down on my right arm to lower my ID and get a better look at it. Internally, I raised an eyebrow as I figured I would get some sort of objection or snarky comment from yet another Starship dealership. Instead, Allie stared at my ID and then looked up at me with excitement. As Certified Master Technician, ma'am, you do me the honor by visiting my humble space yard. The vessel in question is at the end of the yard on the left. He then turned to my client. Gentle being, may I provide you with some refreshments while we wait? A dealer. I wasn't going to stand there staring over my shoulder the entire time. This was new. I proceeded to the inspection, and, in the end, I wish I'd started with the pre-ignition systems. There were a bunch of red flags that would need further and pricey diagnostics, but this is where I found an absolute no-no. I stepped out of the ship and went back to the docking pad. When I arrived, I found Eddie sitting comfortably in a chair while the Berlix instantly shifted from I'm sitting waiting for the technician to return to the technician has returned and I will now receive my report. Not good news, I'm afraid. There are issues with irregular waveforms on the FTL drive intake. I wish that was all, however. I found a real problem. The pre-ignition permacrystal has been removed and replaced with a blank, I said, and then paused as I saw the pine-wrapped face fall into shock. Ali, as you know, this is required to record the odometer, total active services time, and all subsystems regarding the odometer reading, as well as every drive and error code ever presented on a starship. You can't sell the ship with an altered or tampered permacrystal. But I checked for codes for the Sparket 4200, Ali cried out. The Sparket line is great for technicians just fixing things, but any SnapMac has deep dive capabilities by default. It more reliably catches tampering and also checks for improper waveforms instead of just checking if the numbers were within spec. I really found for Annie. He tried, genuinely tried, and even bought a well-respected professional scanner. It wasn't the right one for catching the common hidden features in used starships. The waveform issues point to some expensive and immediately necessary repairs to prevent drive failure, I said professionally. But the tampered permacrystal? That's a sign of other systems have been tampered with. At best, you just find the ship was previously stolen. Most often, someone is trying to hide all the problems. At worst, it was a smuggler vessel, and there may be a hidden contraband compartment that'll get you fined in most systems. The only safe option is a certified gut and rebuild, which will exceed the value of a new ship. It's a part yards vessel, and not something you can sell. I gave the predic a nod and motioned to my ship. We both turned and started moving to leave. I hated to leave Addie hanging like that, but there wasn't anything I could do to help. Wait, Addie called out, still clearly upset by my news. Clara, may I obtain your services to inspect all my other ships? I am greatly concerned I have been led astray by wholesaler lots. And, gentle being, I understand this trip has thus far been a waste of your time. May I offer you accommodations at a local hotel while Clara works? I have 2 similar vessels on a lot which may fit your requirements. The Barnwick S-52 currently running rough, but her esteemed master technician may be able to provide clarity on that matter, and the Voltana Star Ranger. I know the Voltanas may be a bit higher priced than you're initially looking for, but it should be well worth consideration if the inspection works out. I've never heard of a dealer making such an offer, I whispered to my client. I can get both inspections done by midday tomorrow. I accept, my client said, and with their minds set to a new objective, they turned to Annie. Please take me to my hotel now. Right, Annie said, with a bit of strain. Clara, I'll set the gate to allow you unlimited access while I'm gone. Please feel free to begin your work or prepare for tomorrow, whichever works best for you. He also made a swipe on his datapad and sent me an invoice request. I sent it back with a request for 3,000 credits, giving him a 4th inspection free. He didn't even look at the amount and just transferred the credits. I was also a little stunned. He'd just give me unlimited access to the yacht while he was gone. Right this way, Eddie said to my client, as he brought them over to an old hovercar and left for the hotel. I made a call to my partner, who thankfully had the next 2 days off and had already promised our daughter a trip to the local zoo tomorrow. I got off the hook for not coming home tonight by agreeing to a full-day space park visit the day after. I might have been a little hurt that a full day at the space park was enough to overcome Mommy won't be home, but youthful priorities are what they are. I went to work, and it was clear that Addy was stressed when he returned. He didn't bother me except to offer refreshments occasionally, and mostly spent his time cleaning and reorganizing the yard. A yard that was, by most dealership standards, already very neatly cared for, and in no need of cleaning or organizing. I wanted to be sure that I'd be at his space park with my daughter in 2 days, so I worked late and slept on my shift, despite Annie's offer for a room at his home. I woke up early, ate something underwhelming meal replacement paste, and went back to work. By mid-afternoon, I had all of Annie's ships inspected with full reports, except the S-52, which needed some further investigation. Annie went to the hotel and collected the Bredek, whose name I'd finally looked up and declared unpronounceable. It seriously looked like one of those old randomly generated passwords full of letters, numbers, and special characters. When they arrived, I simply gave them both a respectful bow of greeting before cutting to the chase. The Gretchik cargo box is in rough shape, but salvageable with repairs. You'll likely break even on that, but no better. Not saleable in current condition. The Illubrian Firestar just looks terrible, but mechanically is rock solid. The price there is fair for its condition. Now for the 2 vessels our honored Bredek is considering. I turned from Ali to Bredek. The bomb mock S-52 has some possible parts mismatches, which may explain why it's running rough. It is either a factory-optioned model, poorly tuned, or an aftermarket attempt to recreate a factory-optional model. I didn't even get a chance to mention that it would be expensive but worthwhile to repair when the Bredek extended 2 tentacles down to reject it. The Star Ranger has a crack in the sublight intakes. It'll cost 25,000 credits to repair it. Once done, it'll be worth a full 220,000 credits, asking price, and will be reliable. They offer 190,000 credits for the ship, and the master technician 25,000 credits to make the repair, Bredek offered quickly. Inspection rules bar me from performing repairs to prevent any possible conflict of interest, nor am I allowed to recommend a specific repair shop. I must decline. I shall provide full data in my inspection, except full liability against my certification for any major system issues that I have missed in accordance with galactic law, I responded professionally. I'll take a loss selling or repairing, Ali said with a sad smile. I will accept your offer of 190,000 credits and further offer a free tow to the repair facility of your choice within 5 light minutes of the dealership. The Bredek knew a fair deal when they saw one and declared, We must now complete the required paperwork. Such a simple statement for what turned out to nearly 2 hours of reviewing, signing, and acknowledged acceptance of documents. Once done, Ali even paid for a shuttle ride for the Bredek to return home. He then sat down hard on the docking pad and stared at the ground, obviously dejected. I guess I'll just need to take on more debt and be more careful, but I'm seriously wondering if I'm cut out for this business. Annie, I said softly, and he raised his head to look at me. The news isn't all bad. How? He asked with a clear strain in his voice. Inspection rules prevent me from doing repairs for a buyer, but dealers are expected to know if a tech is trying to rip them off, I said softly. Pay me to research and fix the bomb wick. If I'm wrong, it's just an S-52 someone did a drive swap with an old S-50 and kept the intake to recreate the record-breaking Mirror 3 project. If so, it's a finicky beast, but would sell for a pretty credit chit and let you break even on all the other messes I found. The parts are all factory and period correct, not aftermarket. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, Hattie said hopefully. Even a blind neck finds a musk leaf. If I'm right, it's a late production S50 with the factory Mirror 3 options, and you'll make a profit of over 50,000 credits selling it to a collector. I just need to contact the factory and have them run the serial numbers and option list, I said with a growing smile. And for making it in this business, you just need some contacts for technicians who can help out and do reasonably priced inspections before you buy, just like any good buyer. I'll give you names and contact information, including mine. Ali stood up and approached me. I smiled down at him as fear faded, replaced by hope. They say the power of fur compels. There's something stronger. A nice guy trying to do the right thing in a crappy industry. And I needed to make sure that he'd had a chance. I understand that humans are fond of hugs, Ali asked while looking at me with arms wide open. May I? Definitely, I responded emphatically. He leapt onto my chest and suddenly found myself deeply scratching his back with his head over my right shoulder. I lost track of time until a sudden voice behind me made me turn and look over my shoulder. I see you've made a friend, husband, a royal blue pirate said, with a sly smile. Cradled in arms was a tiny ball of pink fluff. Peeking from behind her tail was a slightly larger ball of orange fluff. The stories about humans and deep tissue massages are true, Ali slurred over my shoulder. Perhaps your newfound friend would like to stay for dinner, the royal blue pirate asked. I noticed that she was slightly taller than Annie, but in reality neither one of them was far above waist height. I tensed as a little orange ball of fur darted from behind their mother and climbed up my side to sit on my shoulder before poking me in the nose. Are you so tall? The tiny voice asked me. May I invite my partner and our daughter? I asked. Of course, and please call me Pasha, she responded with a smile. And with that, I was booked for a family dinner and the start of a long business partnership. When we retired 30 years later, my son took over the repair shop, and my daughter was the proud new owner of this little starship lot. Ali and Pasha, their rugrats had long ago decided to flank my kids by opening that little starship lot and the other little starship lot across the street. Each of them specialized in different starship types, which kept things peaceful within the family. Kathra, my old Saberic 8700, we converted her cargo section from an emergency repair and tow configuration into a comfortable living quarters. Ali and I were currently playing rock, paper, scissors to determine who would have the honors of piloting our first post-retirement vacation. If Ali won, he would fly us to Earth. My partner and I would teach our friends to ski. If I won, we'd go to Pi-Rapt Delta, and they would teach us the Chelnal Ak. Rock, paper, scissors, pew pew. We both pulled finger guns in the vain attempt to cheat. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.